One home wipes out a member of the middle class. This middle class curse, widely circulated in mainland China in 2009, may now be a reality. Shanghai real estate is caught in a vicious circle. Buyers dare not buy, sellers can't sell. People who are looking to buy are facing a market where prices are slashed in half. The more the price drops, the more hesitant the buyers are. They tend to wait and see, which has led to them not being able to buy new homes. Second-hand homes can't be sold, affecting new homes. The cycle repeats itself and makes the whole Shanghai real estate market increasingly depressed. Not to mention a group of young people who are lying flat with a changing lifestyle. They don't marry or buy homes. As the economy slumps, companies are laying off people. More people prefer to rent rather than buy. 14 years later, things still haven't changed and seem worse. High mortgages not only affect the happiness index of the middle class, but also further inhibit consumption. Worse still, due to this heavy burden, the rationality, stability, leisure, and mental well-being that belong to the middle class have turned into nervousness, fear, and anxiety. The stabilizer of society has turned into a pressurized valve in an instant. Although in mainland media, nothing has changed in China, and the middle class seems to have gone back to living in happiness like before the epidemic. But more and more Chinese have sensed something is different. You must keep a low profile nowadays. Don't go around and show off on any occasion or in front of anyone because there are so many grudges in the society nowadays. I've seen all kinds of situations as I've been recycling gold. Today, the people are in a state of disarray. You see businesses are closed, bankruptcies, store shutdowns, and unemployment are seen everywhere. People are becoming increasingly stressed, confused, and not knowing what to do. Some become even depressed. Some are seriously disgruntled. I say the amount of disgruntled is worse than the demons. Most of the people are holding their anger inside and have no place to vent. Sometimes, without knowing, a movement or even a look can irritate someone and make you the target of the person's anger. If you say you are better than others, others may decide to just go down with you. Look at what's been happening around us in the last year or two. So don't get into a fight with a stranger, not even a verbal argument. Be polite and smile to these brothers, such as security guards, couriers, or takeout delivery guys, because their jobs have subjected them to more disgruntling in society, and you don't want to be that last straw that breaks the camel's back. Or the anger might spill over to you. Remember to drive without cutting people off. Wait patiently in line without cutting in. Don't make phone calls in public, and don't speak too loudly. Apologize promptly when you bump into others, and stay back a little even when riding an elevator. Remember the words of wisdom. Be careful with your words and tread lightly. China claims to have the world's largest middle class. Look at this article published in the Chinese media in 2022. The headline reads, China's middle class has 109 million people, the largest in the world. How much money does it take to be a middle-class family? The middle class in the eyes of the public is highly educated, with decent jobs and stable incomes. They are free from worries and have high spending power. Only nowadays, they are under tremendous pressure with China's economy rapidly cooling down. You don't know. Nowadays in Shenzhen, for ordinary people, it's a dozen yuan here and a dozen yuan there. Really, a monthly salary of just a few thousand yuan is quickly gone. So I can't afford to spend the money. A dozen bucks, well, it's enough for 3 days of breakfast, right? I'd better walk home. Walk. It's raining outside now. I brought my own umbrella. A professor at Zhejiang University says that a monthly salary of 3,000 yuan, or about US $400, is considered a middle income in China. As such, China has the world's largest middle class of up to 460 million people. But this may be just another of the CCP's fancy talking points. This man, someone who will walk home to save a few bucks, is he considered middle class? Now China's middle class is slowly disappearing. Perhaps middle-class life is just an illusion. Although the definition of the middle class in China is still confusing, the emergence and growth of the urban middle class over the past 3 decades has been an indisputable fact. This has given many people the illusion that they are part of the middle class. The current survey data shows the opposite. Perhaps the disappearance of people self-identifying as middle class is directly related to the physical pressures of soaring housing prices, difficulties in starting a business, unemployment, and joblessness.
Some of my fans have asked me if your husband has found a job yet. My husband hasn't found a job yet, and I think it's too hard for him to find a job at his age. Born in 1987, he's 37 years old this year, and he's doing software development or something like that. Society is not particularly friendly to people over 35, and the competition is pretty strong. I have always thought that my husband is quite outstanding with strong technical skills. He's also honest and doesn't lie. I asked him to optimize his resume a bit or embellish it, but he's honest and lives it as it is. Also, his English, together with his other skills, is very strong as well. He's practical and has attention to details. So I don't understand why he can't find a job. I started looking for job postings for him. The jobs advertised are indeed difficult. Some of them clearly state that people over the age of 35 should not apply. It's upsetting for me. It makes me feel that the entire society is like, a baby is too young for the job, a 35-year-old is too old for the job, and if you leave the job at 60, they don't want you to leave. Something just feels wrong. A 35-year-old is in his prime. He has parents and children to look after, plus the mortgage and car loan, right? Luckily for us, I'm still working and making money, plus we don't have a car loan or a mortgage. But I'm thinking about the people who have car loans and mortgages. What about the ones who have elderly and children at home, and those whose families depend on them? What if they lose their jobs? So now there are a lot of foreclosed homes. They just can't pay the mortgages anymore as they have lost their source of income, and the society is very competitive. So this is a cruel situation.
Although Western theories generally refer to people with a middle income in society as the middle class, the current situation in China is that the criteria for recognizing the middle class are very lenient. People earning from 4,000 to 35,000 yuan a month or between US $500 and $5,000 are generally considered the middle class. But the cruel thing is that most people are closer to the spectrum of US 500 than to the spectrum of US 5,000. Civil servants have long been considered the iron rice bowl in mainland China. Many of them believe that once they enter the bureaucratic system, they can leap into the middle class because their income is stable and high. But what is the current situation? Civil servants collect a pay cut. Is it true or fake news? After Jiangsu, Zhejiang, and other provinces, the economically developed Guangdong province can't hold on any longer. A few days ago, Guangdong held a meeting to discuss whether to adjust civil servants' salaries. Jiangsu province reduced their salaries by 15%. Fujian is down 20%. Zhejiang has the highest drop of 25%. That is, if your income was 10,000 yuan before, now you only have 7,500. If it were 15,000 yuan before, now it would be 11,000 yuan. If provinces with better economies are like this, what does it mean for places that are less developed? In the past 2 years, salaries of many provincial civil servants have been reduced, one after another. The fundamental problem is that the land revenue of the province has been reduced, and the salary of civil servants is naturally lowered. Sources in Guangdong and other provinces have disclosed that it's an indisputable fact that civil servants in various parts of the country have been subject to pay cuts due to a reduction or even zero revenue from land finance. That is why some Chinese people have written articles saying that one should not look at the middle class in all its glory. For in today's Chinese society, where the speed of development is faster than that of the high-speed rail, if one isn't careful, one will be drowned by the rolling current of the times. So for the middle class, which brims with pride, advancement is realized in a hard way. After buying a home with great effort, where one becomes a house slave, they dare not change their jobs easily, and they have to fight against inferior quality housing and bully property management. From here, you can see that the foundations are sinking so much that it's big enough for me to get in. Do you know which is the biggest leak property in Ma On Island? It is Evergrande Yuelong Wan. Why is it the biggest leak property? At that time, when it promised to build fast, many people rushed to buy it, and the price got very expensive. It rose from $390 to $420 per square meter.
当时施工做的真的是加班加点的做，来看一下，镜头过来看一下，坐起。
Let's look at what it's like now. At that time, the construction work was done overtime and with extra hours. Come and have a close-up look through the camera now. This side of the building has a sinking foundation with so much space that I could get inside. This side of the building is the same. The stores in the front row have the same sinking foundations. Originally, the ground was in this position, but now it has sunk a total of 60 centimeters to 80 centimeters.
这个现在目前的话，这个地面应该是在这个位置，看到没有？来，我们再来看一下。
Come on, let's take a look at the ground again to see if it is paved with stone material. Look at the quality. It's all mud and sand. There is no cement at all. The property is said to be involved in false advertising, causing owners to request a refund for their homes. As mentioned earlier, the issue of properties is directly related to the disappearance of the middle class in China. Most middle class in China are homeowners, which is their main asset. In the era of rising property prices, their wealth naturally rose, and their desire to spend increased greatly. However, since 2020, when the real estate industry suffered a heavy blow due to the 3 red lines introduced by the Xi Jinping government, the value of the real estate in the hands of the middle class has depreciated drastically. It means even if they sell their homes, they may not be able to repay their mortgages. As such, how can they be expected to be generous in big spending? Some of my buddies are saying that at this rate, real estate agents are going to starve. Correction, they are already starving. If things go on like this, they will be eating dirt. The weather is now 38 degrees, but it's minus 38 degrees for the real estate market. Today is July 23rd. As of now, the transaction for this month's secondhand properties in the Tiantan area is 0. What does it mean? Nothing sold. Do you know how many agencies there are in Tiantan? 7, and it was 12 at its peak. Now 5 have closed. It's hard to hold out, guys. 200 real estate agents with not even one sale. If it continues like this, we are done. Last month there were only 3 transactions. One new home at over 6 million yuan, or about 840,000 US dollars. Do you know how much it used to sell for this type of home? Oh, the highest selling price for this type of home was 1.12 million US dollars. The other 2 are one new home and a second-hand home. The transaction prices have declined a lot when compared to the peak prices in 2021. I want to make it clear that I'm not putting down the real estate market. I am stating objective facts. Moreover, this phenomena is not unique to the Tiantan region. The entire Shanghai is like this. Previously, I've always emphasized that now is the buyer's market. It's okay to buy, but not okay to sell. A group of well-educated young people is usually regarded as the backbone of the Chinese middle class. For example, there is a generation in China born after the mid-1980s, at a time when China's economy began to take off, and most of them are the only child in the family. Compared to their parents, this generation believes expensive things are of better quality. They are willing to try new things, seek taste and status, and are loyal to the brands they trust. But the current generation has also changed their lifestyle. First, they don't get married or buy a home. They see through the pitfalls behind it and would rather rent than buy. Hello everyone. Just now, my dad offered to pay the down payment if I were to buy a home, and I would make the payments. I turned him down right away. I did some math. Let me show you. For example, if a home is worth 1.5 million yuan or US 210,000, my dad helps me make a down payment of US 70,000. I must borrow US 140,000. It'll take me 30 years to pay back, including interest payments of US 130,000. and then I must pay close to US 280,000 in total at the end. That's not the point. Look at my calculation, okay? This is my first year of interest. By the way, I have chosen a repayment method with relatively low interest. The first year, I must pay back a monthly payment of 5,100 yuan. It contains more interest than the principal. The principal is about 3,000 yuan. It's less than the interest. Look guys, I keep scrolling down. I don't know how many years I would have to pay. By then, I'm nearly 35 or 36 years old. My interest would finally be less than the principal. After making payments for 14 years, my principal finally exceeds the interest, more than 50% of the total payment, but it'll still take 14 years before the interest and the principal become a ratio of 1 to 1. Then my father said to me, then you pay off the mortgage in 2 to 3 years. I told him, if I pay it off in 2 or 3 years, then why don't I rent for 2 or 3 more years and buy it in cash, right? I am only renting for about 2,000 yuan a month plus utilities. It's no more than 2,200 yuan, right? If I were to take out a loan to buy a home, how much interest would I have to pay back in the first 2 years, right? Then I'd have to pay back the principal while the down payment is tied up in there, right? I might as well just rent a home for 3 years or so and then buy a home in cash, right? So brothers, taking out a loan to buy a home, it's not simply buying a home. What would you call it? Well, I won't say more about it. The withdrawal of young people has reduced the future middle class. So, some Chinese business people have noticed that the middle class seems to have suddenly disappeared, no longer appearing in the same places where they used to spend their money. After the epidemic, China's domestic demand, instead of growing, even declined. In addition to the real estate factor mentioned earlier, the strict anti-epidemic policy during the epidemic made it impossible for businesses to operate normally, resulting in many small businesses of the middle class losing all their money and returning to their original form as wage earners. The war between China and the US is another reason, as geopolitical tensions have made them reluctant to engage in too much frivolous spending. As a result, even if there is still a middle class in society, it lacks the usual behavior of the middle class. Any economy without a strong consumer group as its foundation is like water without a source, unable to maintain a steady flow. It can be said that the middle class is a key factor in the sustained economic and social development in a country. It is the presence of a middle class that provides the energy for sustained economic growth. In the past, China's economy has always benefited from the growth of the middle class. Now suddenly it's swung in the other direction. Where would the economy of this red country go?